What's going on, guys? It's your boy Sydney here with you, and it's Thursday evening here in Sydney, Australia. Something happened today at work, and I wanted to chat to you guys about it because it was something that I mulled over for a couple of hours. Now, our boss at work, if you muck up a couple of times on a particular thing, it can be he can get very frustrated, and he can sort of raise his voice and get quite annoyed. But once you correct it, he'll basically just calm down and get over it, which is fine. You know, we all know him. But there's this particular individual who's been messing up a fair bit lately, and I sort of just kept cringing it off, and I was like, oh, this isn't going to be good for him. Like, he's going to get yelled at. But there wasn't much I could do, right? And I was in at work today, and he mucked up on a few things, and the boss would go and sort of have a go at him, and then he would get frustrated, and because he was frustrated and flustered that he'd been yelled at, he'd make mistakes, and because he'd make mistakes, he'd get yelled at, and then because he get yelled at, he'd make mistakes, and it was just this never-ending loop, right? And that's not a good thing. So what I actually witnessed was him having a bit of a blow up over the lunch break with my boss, and then he went upstairs to speak with the owner of the company, and then he came back downstairs and he went outside, and he walked up towards the gate, and I was like, is he going somewhere? Like, what's going on? And he paused at the gate, and he brought his, from what I could see from behind, it looked like he was about to light up a cigarette, right, bringing his hand up to his face. And I was like, man, I didn't know he smoked. And it wasn't until later that one of the other guys, the younger dude that I work with, told me that he was actually crying outside. And there was a couple of, I guess, not so much, I mean, one of the realizations was more of a refresher on what I already knew, but the other were realizations. And the thing that was a refresher on what I already knew is that it's actually really disheartening to be yelled at in front of colleagues, especially when you're getting put down or told that you're doing things wrong, because I've been there and it's not a nice feeling. And I also know that feeling of being on the brink of tears at work and knowing that that's the end of your tenure, that you're going to leave because you've had it up to here and there's no more you can take, right? And not taking things to heart that aren't personal is, I think, something really important to do in terms of resilience. But also seeing this guy and reflecting back on, constant regular mistakes. And it's not like this guy was dumb, like he's a smart guy, but it means his head's not in the job. If his head's not in the job, then it's got to be somewhere else. And if his head's somewhere else that often, it means that he's got something going on. And for him to actually arc up at and have an argument with the boss, who is essentially, looking after him in terms of his income and in terms of his employment and his role, you've really got to be going through some tough times to engage in that kind of conflict. And it made me realize that he's probably going through depression. And not gonna lie, it broke my heart a bit. I'm getting a bit shaky just talking about it right now. It was really, really hard. It was difficult to watch. It was even harder to realize what I realized after I'd seen it unfold. So I just like, if you know anyone that does tend to yell at or disparage people in front of others, but I guess overall has good intention, I'd really love you to share this video with them to show how harmful it can actually be to others, and that there are other ways to approach these things, such as maybe pulling people to the side and having that discussion and explaining why it's important that they get this right, and asking if they've got stuff going on at home. like, yeah, look, I noticed you've been making a lot of mistakes at work, and I know that's not typically like you. So what's really going on? Talk to me. Let me help you through whatever it is that are going on, so that we can get you back to the right frame of mind here. Because it pains me to see what you're going through. I feel like that would be a more compassionate way of dealing with things. And guys, I know I often talk about, you know, how to go your own way and the perils of not going your own way, and just some ridiculous stories that we see from radical feminists and social justice warriors, and terrible stories that happen to people. But this is really important, especially since my passion is in helping men, and helping people to get out of those negative states. Right. If we're going to help more people get out of negative states, we need to actually understand how to identify these things. So that's really important to me, that I'm able to help you guys out with that. Now, what can we really do to help people in depression? I would say the main thing that we can do to help people that are feeling depressed is to firstly identify it. Second, say, look, I feel like this might be something you're going through, and I just want to let you know that if you need someone to speak to, if you need someone just to acknowledge it, if nothing else, or just to tell, look, this is what I'm going through. I don't want you to do anything about it. I don't want to talk about it. I just want to let you know this is what I'm going through, because I need to get it off my chest to somebody that I'm hurting. Right? So to be able to identify those signs is pretty powerful, and you can change lives. You can save lives as well. But yeah, that was a bit of pill to swallow today. And when I reflected back on my past experiences and I married those two things up, I realized exactly what was going on. It was just hard because I've moved well past that point. But to see this guy at almost 60 years old, just really struggling and doing it tough, and hurting and in pain, and not being able to focus properly on his work, and I can imagine he must feel like such a failure, constantly getting things wrong, when it's like you had one job kind of thing. And I'd imagine that anyone who has gone through depression and whose work has suffered as a result, because that is typically something that does suffer when someone's going through depression. It's got to be tough to feel like the world's falling down around you, and then to not be able to do your job right, just on a basic level. That's like, it's one thing to be embarrassed, but it's another thing to be completely ashamed. And I can imagine that people might feel ashamed, or really like they just want to hide or walk away from what it is that they're doing. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to keep it really short this afternoon, but it was important to me that I get this off my chest and share this with you guys. And if any of you guys have actually gone through something, don't be afraid to go to someone that cares about you and say, look, I don't want you to do anything. Like, if you want them to do something about it, or you want to talk to them, or you want to get stuff off your chest, like on a more detailed level, I encourage you to do that. But if you just want to let someone know that you're going through a tough time so they can be a bit more compassionate and understanding, don't be afraid to let them know. Just say to them, look, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want your compassion. I don't want, or maybe not those words exactly, but like, I don't want to talk about this. I don't need anyone's pity, but I just want to let you know that I'm going through a tough time right now. I just wanted to say that, and you will be amazed. You'll be amazed at the difference in the way people treat you, and in how much more understanding they are of the struggle that you're going through at that point in time. Right? And I would say, I know this is terrible, but it's more likely to be something that you would perhaps bring up with a guy, you know, like a male friend of yours, because, you know, it is far less likely that a woman will be compassionate towards you in the way that you'll need them to be, unless there's some mutual benefit for them. And I get it, but I just find that, in my experience, and I could be wrong, and some of you guys may have had different experiences, but women tend to be less accommodating and understanding of someone in a real struggle position. It's like they don't want to deal with it quite often. Yeah, there are some compassionate ladies out there, but more often than not, I think you find that guys will be more understanding on the whole, collectively. Anyway, guys, that's just my opinion, and I thank you for tuning in today. And if you do know someone who's going through a tough time, just send this video to them to let them know that they're not alone, and that you do care about them. And if you see any of these red flags, please try and communicate to them that you've noticed and that you care, because I've been there and it makes a hell of a difference. And it means a lot to a person when you can identify their struggle that they're trying to hide. That's all I got to say. Carly says, hi Sydney and guys, I was depressed and went on Lexapro, but I couldn't orgasm. It motivated me to exercise and eat healthier, which worked. Hopefully you end up managing to get off those antidepressants, Carly, through exercise and healthy eating. And guys, that is a very good way to actually bring up your level of energy, and you know, get into a good headspace and get into a good emotional place to exercise, eat well, and do the things that you love, guys. Like, I can't tell you how much it was, how good it was for me to get back on my motorbike the other day. Like, I was freezing. My fingers were in pain from being so cold, because it's been really, really cold here in Sydney. But it was very, 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 very uplifting to be back on the bike, you know. And for some people, the hit they get of what are they called? It's not dopamine. Basically, the good feels chemicals that you get when you exercise, or when you work out, or, you know, when you get an adrenaline rush and you get, you know, you start hanging out with your friends again, or you start doing what it is that you love. Like, if you love riding your motorbike, do that. If you like taking photos, do that. If you like flying your drone, do that. Whatever it is that you love to do when you're going through a tough time, even if you don't feel like doing it, go and do it. That's right. That's the one, Jason J. Endorphins. Doing things that you love trigger your endorphins, right? Even like, there was a stage at which I didn't really enjoy my car anymore, and then I went for a drive and I realized how much I appreciated it again, like a proper, like, good cruise with some friends. So guys, do what you got to do, and, you know, congratulations for getting off the antidepressants, Carly. I'm glad that you were able to do that. And for any of you guys who have been through depression and you've been on antidepressants, hopefully you're off. And if you are, then I'm really glad that you've been able to get off that as well. It's quite difficult to get off antidepressants if you have a very addictive personality. Anyway, guys, I'm going to bounce for now, but thank you so much for tuning in. If you're just catching this now, please go and rewatch this, share it with someone you know that might be going through some stuff, and let them know that there is a way to approach people that doesn't have to leave them completely vulnerable, and that you do care. All right, guys, I'm out of here for now. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Appreciate you. And until next time, peace.